Sometimes all you wanna do is have some fun. In these dump nights or dump nights, I behave childishly. In these nights, I'm not patient enough to spend hours and hours on just one object's exposure time. I decided to take a video about one of these nights because these are often the nights I enjoy most, because they keep my love for the starry sky alive. Especially since my 12-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain is ready for astrophotography, sometimes I want to explore several deep sky objects in one night instead of limiting myself. However, I should of course concentrate on just one object instead of ending up with a lot of silly images. But yesterday was one of those silly nights. Early in the afternoon, the weather forecast promised good seeing conditions and clear skies. Do you still remember me mentioning in my last video that I'd love to take a more detailed shot of M57? Well, that could be my chance, so I had to set up my biggest telescope with the biggest aperture for that purpose. It would have been wisely to focus that night on M57. But as I mentioned before, no. Once everything was prepared, I started my deep sky marathon. The first object I took some shots of was Messier 3. It is a good object to observe even if it's not fully dark yet. So this is my first silly noisy image. Compared to professional photography, this is the Polaroid image, you could say. Afterward, I observed the Black Eye Galaxy and the Sombrero Galaxy. Especially galaxies with bright cores are great to observe with live stacking. But keep in mind, you won't be able to catch many details of the fainter surroundings with this technique. A few minutes later, I went on to the Cat's Eye Nebula. However, of this one I was quite deceived. I had been really curious about this one after I read that it measures about 5 arc minutes. What I didn't know was that the fainter nebula around the bright core was included in this measurement. All in all, even with my 12-inch scope, the bright part of the small nebula in the center was too small to show some interesting details. The core itself turned out to be extremely small. That was a little bit deceiving, but finally it was time to go to M57. Now it's time to talk about the unfortunate part of taking images of M57. Live stacking. Live stacking in real time with really short exposure times, like half a second or so, is only possible with a really small room of interest. In full frame, maybe you could only stack 2 or 3 half a second exposures in 4 or 5 seconds. So that results in only 1 second of exposure time in about 4 or 5 seconds in total. So this full frame approach would consume a lot of valuable exposure time. Therefore, you have to use a smaller room of interest to compensate for that. In that case, your computer is able to stack 2 images, 2 half a second images in just 1 second, so you don't lose valuable exposure time. But this leads, of course, to another problem. Live stacking. The problem is that there are often not enough bright stars available for stacking if you use smaller rooms of interest. As you can see, compromises must be accepted. In my case, I accepted to increase the exposure time to 1 second. That was necessary to make sure that there are enough bright stars available for stacking. But for maximum sharpness, it would be better to reduce the exposure time to at least half a second. Another important thing to keep in mind: if you really want to take an image with maximum details, you should of course never use the live stacking function. You can use, for example, Deep Sky Stacker or similar to use programs in which you can say you want only the best 50% of images to be. In that case, you can try different percentages of usage to achieve the best result. But now it's time to get back to my image, taken with the live stacking function in ASI Studio. This image consists of 3,500 single images of 1 second exposure time each. Even if I'm not unhappy with the result, I guess next time I will take single images and stack them separately. So this leads us back to why I said in the beginning this was a dump night, a fun night and nothing more. I just wanted to enjoy this beautiful night, doing what I love, free from the pressure of taking a perfect image. I truly savored every moment of that night. Take a look at this beautiful Milky Way, but not so beautiful Milky Way image. Just a few degrees above the horizon, I could spot M17, the Omega Nebula. In my opinion, the core of the nebula even looks cool with the blurry stars. Achieving sharp stars becomes quite challenging when the object is only a few degrees above the horizon and you're using 2000 mm focal length and small pixels. After delighting in this nebula, I could already witness the sky preparing for summer. I decided to take a last glimpse at one of my favorites, the Dumbbell Nebula. I stacked 15 minutes in total of 30-second exposures. That wraps up my dump or city night. I hope you enjoyed joining me on this night filled with astronomical fun and joy. Even though I did not capture a single stunning image. Please remember to press the like button as it really helps me, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Clear skies. Thanks for watching.